Hi friends, this is Adi here. So it's weekend today, so I'll try to upload two videos so that we can just give a push towards our complete training, and then we'll be having more time to discuss on the interview questions and then some of the real-time scenarios. So today I'm going to talk about the events in SAP, especially ABAP, and then how those events are, useful in reporting, and then what kind of events are there, um, and then how it actually helps in terms of dealing with an user action within a report. So these are some of the things which we are going to discuss in this tutorial. So before I start the tutorial, I would also like to make you familiar with some of the jargons which we use in the SAP and ABAP world. So very common jargon would be RICEF. So what is a RICEF object? So RICEF, uh, most of the cases, I would say, not some of, most of the cases, when you see a job description or job requirement, you'll come across this terminology, RICEF. So the expectation is that the ABAP consultant should have worked extensively on a RICEF object. So RICEF basically is a report, that is for R. So report is something we are currently talking about. Interfaces. So interfaces basically, it could be like interacting with the SAP and non-SAP system. So that kind of interface. It could be basically the interaction between SAP and SAP different kind of systems. That any scenario is possible. So reports, interfaces, then C for convergence. Convergence means you have a data outside of SAP and then you want to bring it into SAP by writing some kind of program which would make SAP to understand the data and put it into a particular field. So that is convergence. Then enhancements. So enhancement is something, the concept of customizing the standard SAP product by using some of the enhancements techniques provided by SAP, and then that is something which helps to make this product more customizable, and that is the USP of this product, overall SAP product. So SAP is highly customizable product, and that is how it gains the edge over other ERP products available in the market. So reports, interfaces, convergence, enhancement, and then forms. So forms are basically like the printout of an invoice, printout of a sales order, printout of some of the applications like leave application, your pay slip, uh, your earning register, could be anything. Many things are there. Gate pass, some of the scenarios you would see that whenever a truck moves out of your warehouse, then it requires a gate pass to be submitted at the main gate, against which the truck would be released, and then also it carries a copy of the gate pass, so that whenever there is an excise or a custom officer tries to do some kind of investigation, they can showcase the proper documents. That is going to be a form. Now in the reports we will be having classical, interactive, ALV, these three kind of reports mainly available. Interfaces, we will be having various interfacing techniques like interfacing via middleware. So we have PI, that is a SAP product. PI is process integration, that is going to be SAP product. We have Gentran, that kind of interface. We have I think from Oracle we have Fusion. So these are some of the middlewares which will act as an interface between an inbound. So inbound means something which is coming to SAP, and then outbound, something which is going out of SAP. So these middlewares would try to understand that and then accordingly help the other system to act. For example, PI reads a file and then creates some document directly in SAP. So PI is capable of doing that. Similarly, Gentran, Fusion. I think we have some other. TIPCO is there, one of the very famous one. So as a part of interface, we will be covering iDocs. iDocs are basically intermediate documents. we will be covering BAPs also. Conversion techniques are there. Conversion means it will go and read the data lying in a notepad or an Excel sheet, which will actually be generated by some non-SAP system or a legacy system. And then some of the conversion techniques, like we have BDC, we have again, I mean, BAP is again there. We have LSMW, and then obviously iDocs also. So basically these things. So I mean, somehow this interface and then conversion, they both act hand in hand. Here we have RFC also. RFC is basically remote function call, like I explained in one of the sessions when I was talking about the function modules. So RFC. So RFC also helps in terms of interfacing. So we have convergence, we have BDC, BAP, LSMW, iDoc. Now in enhancements we have user exits, we have customer exits, we have enhancement framework, we have business framework. So these are and then we have baddies, business add-ins. Baddie is basically business add-in. So we will be discussing everything in detail as much as possible. Only this middleware stuff I won't be able to do, because in my demo system I don't have PI as a part of it. So but still I'll try to give you as much concepts as possible with some real-time scenario. So baddies, we'll be discussing these things. Forms, we have SAP scripts, smart forms, and then we have Adobe Forms. Adobe Forms, I'll see if I can explain, because again in a demo system I don't think my Adobe Developer Studio is working fine. I'll see if I can rectify the problem, or else I'll give you the links wherein you can go and explore, because if you are able to understand these concepts, you'll be able to understand this very easily, very easy. So yeah, so this is basically some of the very important things which we do as I mean as an ABAP consultant on a day-to-day basis. So we generally deal with these things very frequently. Apart from this, we have object-oriented concepts, we have workflows. So we'll be taking this up also. So if you are good with these things, you can easily implement these things in the same concept. So that is something I wanted to tell you. So these are some of the jargons in ABAP, basically some of the key things in ABAP, and then being used very frequently. Now we'll talk about the events in ABAP. So what is an event basically? So event is a kind of processing block which will be triggered in different moments while my code is running. It could be a program, it could be a report. So there would be some kind of processing block that would be running in the backend. Now, having said that, I would also like to mention here is that events are automatically uploaded in the backend by SAP. So we don't necessarily need to mention it in the front end in our code, but then it's always better. So because it helps SAP to identify it easily, otherwise SAP would apply its own logic. Both are fine, but then it's up to you. But yeah, as a part of our coding standard, we have to use events. Now what kind of events we have? The very first event would be load of program. So load of program is an event which triggers automatically the moment you hit the F8 button on a program. So it's like I have my program. Okay, let's close the useless sessions. I have my program, or I have my report, this one. So the moment I hit execute, basically the load of program event will be triggered, which means it loads all the code available in that program in the memory. So that is now available in the memory, and then SAP will use it. So after load of program, we have initialization. So initialization is a place where so basically this will be triggered as a first event, I would say, after load of program. Load of program, anyway, it happens in the backend. So initialization is a place where I want to initialize some of my variables, some of my global variables which are going to be used in the program. It could be like clearing the variables. It could be like setting a default value to any variable. It could be like setting a default value to my parameters or select options available in the screen. So basically that is something we call as initialization. As soon as the things are initialized, the next event would be add selection screen. So at selection screen, this event will be triggered when we execute the program, and then our selection screen is loaded. So basically this screen. So once this screen is loaded, then our add selection screen event is triggered. In the add selection screen event, we have various other components like add selection screen output, add selection screen on, and then some of the other events I'll just try to show you in the editor itself. Then start of selection, which means now we are telling our SAP system that here we are going to fetch the data. End of selection means my data fetch is complete. Top of page, so basically some kind of heading I want to put in my output in the top. End of page, this will help me to put my footers. So initialization, add selection screen, start of selection, end of selection, top of page, end of page. Obviously this is basically something going to help in the classical report, which means just one page output, one list output. We have another event called add line selection. Add line selection is something which helps to create an interactive report, which means if you double click on any part, add line selection will go and capture the value of that field. Then we have add user command, means user is triggering some command like saving the output or hitting on the back button. Add pf status. So these are some of the events. So we'll go to our report and we'll see how these events are basically called. So I have these includes coming here, so I can write an initialization here. So this is how we trigger the initialization event. Now the other concept which I wanted to discuss is the subroutines. So subroutines are basically some of the basically it's a processing block wherein a repetitive code can be called again and again. So for example, in initialization, so anyway, first we'll talk about initialization. So I'm getting some of the inputs from my selection screen, let's say select option, and then I have my internal table here, it underscore Mara. I have my work area here, WMara. So what I want to do before anything goes further, I want to make sure that there is no data available in my internal table and there is no data available in my work area. So what I can do, I can write clear WA underscore Mara. So clear will, what it will do, it will just clear any existing data in that work area if that is available by any chance. I can refresh it underscore Mara. So if let's say this report is due to any reason the memory of this report is not cleared, so if any data already available in the report in the internal table, it will simply clear it out. It will just make this internal table clean. So this is something we do in initialization. Now the next one which I wanted to talk about is add selection screen. Now obviously it looks very simple that some operations we want to do on selection screen. I'll try to hit F1 here. So we'll see what SAP help says about it. So you should try to utilize this F1 option as much as possible. So these are some of the events related to add selection screen. So we have total 8 events in add selection screen. Add selection screen output, add selection screen on means some parameter or select option, add selection screen on end of, on block, on radio button group, on help request, on value request, on exit command. Now I wanted to discuss few more things here before I go get into add selection screen. PBO, PAI, POH, POV. Now these events are related to a normal reporting, but then these events are related to screen programming. So whatever we do in SAP, eventually we are dealing with some kind of screen. So we will simply just discuss the concept now, and then obviously when I'll get into dialog programmings, that is also one of the things we wanted to discuss. Which means when I'm going to design the screens exclusively, as of now if you see here, if I execute this program, by default it gives me a selection screen. So I don't need to design this screen exclusively, SAP itself designs it. And then you also should okay, that is not coming here, but by default the selection screen is basically SAP would assign it a screen number that is called selection screen, and that is screen number 1000. So but then I can create my own screen also. That would be a part of my module pool programming or a dialog programming. But then you try to understand this. PBO is basically process before output. PAI is process after input. POH is process on help request. POV is process on value request. So PBO, process before output, which means you are calling any transaction. So let's say you are calling a transaction called SE11. So before this transaction appears in front of me, it will do a lot of things in the background. So whatever it does, that will be a part of my PBO, process before output. Then what I do here, I give a table name and then I hit on display. So when you give an input to the screen using your keyboard and then you hit on some button, so process after input will be triggered, which means it will go and do some processing, execute some set of code, and then PAI event is basically called, and then it displays the output, which means this output. Now the other event is process on help request, which means if I select this, and then if I hit F1, so when I'm doing this is a kind of help view for me. It gives the some of the details related to that. So then POH would be triggered, that is process on help request. Process on value request is something when I hit F4 here. So basically I'm requesting a value. So this is something will be called under this event, process on value request. Now we'll just hold this concept here, but then obviously we will try to relate it, correlate it with these events also. But then this will come into picture when I'm going to design a screen exclusively in SAP using dialog programming, or we also call it module pool programming. So now I'll come to this keyword help. Add selection screen output. So add selection screen output is triggered at the screen event PBO of a selection screen, which means before that selection screen appears in front of me, this will be triggered. Add selection screen on means if there is a parameter or a select option in the screen, and then I want to do, let's say the select option, I want to do some operation on this, so this event will be utilized there. On end of selection screen means the selection table is completely passed, which means all the all the selection criteria on the screen are validated. On block means this block, we are talking about this block. So if you want to perform some operation on this block, radio button means you want to do something with the moment this radio button is checked, you want to do something, so that is radio button. Add selection screen, basically add selection screen is called PAI, that is process after input, means if I am entering something here and then you want to perform some operation. On help request, value request is again the same thing which I just explained. If you want to hit F4 here, if you want to do F1 here, so you want to control that. And then on exit command means if you hit these buttons, this back, exit, cancel, then this will be triggered. So they have given some of the examples here. We will also try to utilize some of the options now. If you remember, we made this input as mandatory, so I'm removing it for now. Okay, now the other thing which I wanted to tell you, that if there is a select option, so we have four things here. I think I explained it some time back, but still we have four things called sign, option, low, high. So whenever there is a selection screen, there would be four things: sign, option. So sign means whether you want to include or exclude this, something like this one, you want to exclude this. If you select this one, it's like include this. Option means equal to or not equal to, something like this. So whether equal to this value or not equal to this value. Low means whatever you enter on this one, that is called low. High means this one, so lower range, upper range, something like that. So those are the operations as a part of our select option. So if I want to access this, I'll call it s underscore matnr hyphen low. So if you see here, we have s underscore matnr, but then if I want to access this one, we'll call it s underscore matnr hyphen low. So I was telling that when I'm calling this screen, add selection screen on s underscore matnr hyphen low, sorry, on s underscore matnr, means with this event system is going to deal with that select option. So what I want to mention here is that if s underscore matnr hyphen low is initial, means it does not have any value, then message there is another type of giving the message that please enter some value type e and if. So we saw another way of triggering the message like this. Now we'll do like this. There are various options of triggering the message, but then why we want to avoid this, and why we recommend this is that basically related to translation and also coding standard. Execute this and then try to execute. So it's saying that please enter some value here. So what exactly it does, it goes and triggers this event, and then it validates whether there is a value in the low or not. Similarly, I want to write one more thing here. High. So if I execute this now, and let's say I enter some low value, but if I execute this, since high is not there, again it will give me that value. If I select this and execute, then that error will not be there. Okay. So this is something related to add selection screen on. There could be a parameter, so I can put it like p underscore matnr. There is a select option. Now simple add selection screen. So as I said, this one is basically PAI, which means my screen is front of me, and then I am doing some value there. I mean entering some value there. I am doing some operation there, and then this event is triggered. So this event will be triggered once I do something, which means I do an interaction with the screen. So what I am saying here is, let's say if r underscore bun1 equal to x, message hi type so you have to note here is that here I didn't do anything, which means I did not do any value. I mean I didn't enter any value there. I did not do any operation with that field, and then when I executed, system executed this event. But here let's say I make it like this one. Now this is having some value, this is having some value, and I selected this, execute. So I get an information message hi, which means I did some interaction with the screen, and I hit OK. So then that event was triggered. Okay. So similarly, there are various options in add selection screen. I'll see if I get an opportunity to explain more options. I mean, we'll try to create those scenarios. The other event is start of selection, which means I'm telling my report here is that now I'm going to fetch the data. Now while doing that, I want to use the subroutine concept, means I want to tell the system that perform, let's say I'm writing fetch underscore data. If I double click here, yes, so it will tell you that where you want to put this coding block. So we have this F01, so F01 will always have my subroutines. Hit OK. So you see that we have this one, and then under this we have our fetch underscore data. Just activate and see if there are any errors. Select both. OK, so no errors. Go back. Now what I'm going to do here is whatever I have written here as a part of my data selection, I'll put here. Now so now you can see that whenever this start of selection is triggered, this subroutine would be triggered, and this subroutine would take me to this piece of code. Now I want to do one more thing here is this subroutine will be dedicated to data selection only. Now I want to do some more optimization in the code. So I'm just copying all the useless code. So you will see here that we have only a select query in this subroutine, means this select query will only fetch the data. Now I write another event here is end of selection. So I'm telling system that my data fetch is complete. Now if you remember, earlier we fetched the data only when the radio button 1 was checked. So what I will do here is control, so we'll just put that condition here. If that radio button is checked, then only you fetch the data. Else what we were doing, so else we were giving some kind of message. We'll copy this piece, remove this useless piece of code. So now what I'm telling system is that if radio button 1 is selected, then you fetch the data, otherwise just cancel the operation. So now you can see that our report is taking some kind of shape. You can remove these two things here. So if radio button is selected, otherwise terminate the operation. Other thing, we also fetched, we also called this function module, so we will be calling it again, Control X, in the same subroutine. So what we told that if the previous operation is successful, then you call this function module and get some of the other details, which means the details of a beginning date and end date of the quarter. activate this. So I'm fetching the data from MARA table. I'm also fetching the beginning and end date of the quarter, end of selection. Here I'm writing another subroutine is perform display underscore data. So obviously it does not exist. Double click, yes, put it under this include. So we'll come here in the display underscore data. I'll use my write statements. Now we will execute this report and see what is happening. Now here instead of terminating the operation, we will use an information message. Execute this, give a range. So you can see that whatever we were getting earlier, same thing is coming now. But if there is no data, so I get a message no execution, and it comes back here. So the other small tweaking which you can do is message this. We can say the display like error. So you can see now we are getting it in red color. So basically it remains an information message but then acts like an error message. So it comes in red color. So we can display, we can make it E display like I, something, whatever you want to do, that kind of tweaking. Then we have an event called top of page. Right header of okay. So top of page means we'll give some header, end of page means we'll give some footer. Execute. Okay, we'll just continue. In few minutes I'll get some water. Yeah, sorry. I'm back again. So what we did, top of page we are writing header of the report. I mean, you can write some meaningful word. End of page we are writing footer of the report. So we are executing the program. So just execute and let's see what happens. So you can see this is by default, that is heading. Now we are displaying the header of the report, but you don't see the footer here. So we can't see the footer. So why the footer is not coming is basically whenever the page ends, then only SAP will display the footer. But here our page is not ending, means by default SAP allocates some 255 lines, but in our output we don't have 255 lines, then our footer is not getting displayed. So what we will do here, we'll calculate now 1 2 3 4 5 6 7. So we will tell SAP that our report will have only 7 lines, and after maybe 8th line onwards our page ends, and then you can display a footer. So to do that we have a syntax. So this one something came by default, we'll mention that no standard page heading, page count, let's say 8, means my page will have 8 lines. Once the 8 lines are completed, you have 1 line for footer, something like this. Okay, looks like there is some syntax issue. The desired page limit is page count. It's not numeric. How come? Let me check. Yeah, so the syntax is no standard page heading line counts. We are telling that from 8th line onwards my page ends, and then you can trigger the footer in next 1 line. You can make it 2 3 based on your requirement. Now let's see what happens. Execute the report. So you can see that my header is also coming, my footer is also coming. So basically we have to tell this that my page ends at 8th line. So basically in real time you have to allocate that it should end at 60th line, it should end at 50th line, whatever. So this is how we display a classical report. So while we are displaying the data, we can give the heading also, something like first you write, before the loop, you write material number, date, created by, so this will come in 1 line, something like this. So material number, then date, so this date created by this, and you can allocate some positioning like material number, at maybe starting, then date maybe at something like this, created by. You can assign some kind of positioning there. So now it will just change the position. So you have to do this kind of tweaking, that where the material, where the date were created by, at which place it should come, so that it looks properly aligned. So this is how our this is how our classical report works. You can also mention some color, I think. Color 40. SAP has provided some color schemes which can explore on Google. Yeah, we don't have 40 color ID. 1 to 7. So this will give some color here. So you can do this kind of free R&D also. You can just assign some color to every color 3. So you can see. Now I would say that you are completely aware of a classical report. You are also aware of the events in a classical report. So I think we will just close our session for today. I'll upload another video in the evening in which I'll discuss more on the interactive report, and also we will explore more on these sub events of add selection screen. We will do some tweaking in our selection screen, how to hide field on the screen, how to disable a field on the screen, how to enable a field on the screen. Those kind of things we will do in the evening. And then uh, we will try to navigate around different list outputs. We will try to navigate around from one list output to a transaction. So we will do those kind of things in the interactive report. So you do some more R&D, you try to play around the classical report. If you need any input, you can drop me an email, or you can just Google, and then you'll get many examples there. So this completes our classical reporting. Okay, I will close this. And then you are also aware that how we write a beautiful report, how we use the different events, and how we actually use a subroutine. What are the significance of these includes now? So top is basically to contain my data declaration, to contain my selection screen. F01 is to contain my form routines as SAP displays here. So this is how our standard reporting looks like. So we'll close this session for now. Yeah, and then you can also determine that what is the coding standard. And then one more thing, before we close the session, you can write some comments before every line starts. So here you can give some description starting from this, that if low value is not there, throw an error. So this will help to the new developer to understand that what is the purpose of this event. Similarly, you can write more description at every processing block. So in a normal scenario, if there are 100 lines of code, we expect that at least 30 line out of it would be a comment, so that it's helpful to the next guy who's going to provide some support or going to do some enhancement on that one. So this is how it happens in the standard SAP development environment. So thanks guys for your time, and then I'll be back again with the interactive reporting. Thank you, and then see you again.